Welcome back to Talk of the Town with PG Sittenfeld. So glad you were spending some of your Saturday with us. And here's what you do. You get the games on TV, you put the TV on mute, and you turn on 1230 The Buzz. You already knew that. I know, but just in case anyone was thinking, I can't hear Sittenfeld over the commentators, just put the TV on mute. You can do both. T, did you, growing up, my parents were just so sad with technology in the first place. The big screen TV in our house was about 12 inches across, so it's like there wasn't that much technology to regulate. But did you have a lot of rules around, whatever you can only use your, you can play the boombox at these times, or these are your TV hours, or?
No, we didn't really have those kind of rules. I was a good kid.
Because you were just so angelic,
I
is
was.
what you're saying.
How did you know?
We know better than that. Was it even used as like the carrot and the stick thing where if you do misbehave, which apparently you're telling us you never did, that those would be taken away? Or?
No, I was, now I have two older brothers who weren't as, good on the behavior side. But, there were certain things I like to read. So, if I didn't do things I was supposed to do, then
they would take away your books.
I would not be able to read.
It seems counterproductive.
I can do my homework, but not the pleasure reading. Not the Bernstein Bears or Judy Blume.
Terrence is sitting in studio saying, he would intentionally misbehave, so his books got taken away. Now I don't have to read. I want to get into the because all of you are dealing with this in direct ways, seeing what's the actual impact of cyberbullying on real people. And again, if folks want to weigh in, 513-749-1230. But before we get to that, Susan, anything else in terms of guidelines for parents setting rules of their own about, I guess, how their children, basically, you want to get to the point where kids don't think, I can do anything I want with my technology, including be really nasty to another person.
Sure. Yeah, I think as parents, we've got to do a couple things. We need to model appropriate online behavior and model minimal use of technology. One rule we have in our house is no cell phones come to the dinner table.
Yeah, smart.
And, we need to interact with each other and have positive...
You mean you actually talk to each other?
Well, we try. The 3 and 4-year-old.
What a weird family.
Right. But it's real easy to, answer text messages at dinner because it's related to work or something going on. So we try to put some limits and structure around that. And, then the other thing is just minimize the amount of screen time in general, whether it's on no matter what device it's on.
Well, to echo that, T, in our Let's Move initiative, one of the things, it's the 5-2-1-0. Let me see if I can get these right. Okay. So 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. Yep. 2 hours or less of recreational screen time, an hour of exercise, and 0 sugary drinks. But that in terms of our overall health, they say if you're, just glazed in front of your... So one is, I guess, not living in front of your technology anyway.
Sure.
Joe, as we think about sort of the impact of this, what happens to people who are cyberbullied? You're an educator at the middle school level. I mean, talk about what you see and if you're... a 12-year-old girl or a 14-year-old boy, what actually happens when people are on the receiving end?
Yeah, there's a lot of emotional problems that are with that. As a teacher, you see the side effects from it. So obviously they can't get on the internet during school, but when they come in that night before, someone might have said something on Facebook or said something to them online or anonymous or whatever it is, and then you have to deal with the teacher the next day. So it's the ramifications from that you have to deal with. Sometimes it might blow up a little bit or escalate into something else, and you kind of have to put that fire out before it goes even more than what it is.
Right. Dr. DeMeo, you're a clinical school psychologist. What's happening to the kids? I mean, talk about the impact it has on them emotionally, on their brain, et cetera.
Okay. Well, actually it has a lot of different things as far as it occurs. One is that we see correlations as far as between school failure. In addition to that, family problems, increase as far as delinquent behavior, some of the school violence as far as has been related as far as to bullying and cyberbullying as far as in the past. So those are just as far as a few where there's a correlation. But the other major concern for us, in addition to the emotional piece that Joe talked about, is the avoidance to go to school, be embarrassed as far as to go to school, going out in public, because the thinking is that everybody knows as far as this. It becomes viral, and I'm a target. So they become as far as very inclusive and withdrawn.
It's such a good point that, if you are sitting in class freaked out that someone's going to be, texting somebody else about what a loser you are, or whatever, however it manifests itself, it's very hard to focus on what's actually being taught there. Susan, anything else in terms of, what you've seen is the impact on those on the receiving end of cyberbullying?
Sure. We've seen it, and there's also a lot of research to support higher levels of depression, anxiety, and even medical and somatic complaints like stomach aches, headaches that influence kids every single day and influence, like Dr. DeMeo said, their coming to school, or not coming to school, I should say.
Right. I know, T, you had a question, but one other thing I was just sort of curious about, are the people that are doing the cyberbullying the people who have sort of always been the bullies anyway, or is this creating a new breed of bully where, like, you know, the tech nerd actually is in a better position to do the cyberbullying, or is it still like just the mean jerk person that's in every class that they're the ones still doing it?
Yeah. I think it's a combination because now what occurs is that this tech person, this nerd person, now has as far as an upward advantage as far as to use technology to create as far as some of these situations. But also we do see a high correlation between traditional bullying and also cyberbullying.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, it probably boils down to what your character is, that whether you were going to, you know, stuff someone in a locker in olden days or, you know, post something nasty on Facebook, that it really is, if that's who you are, then you're going to find different ways of doing it.
Yeah, there's a lot of overlap, and technology is how our young people are communicating now. So whether they're doing it face-to-face or they're doing it using electronic means, they're communicating some of the same messages. And there's a high level of overlap in the targets. Individuals that are targeted face-to-face are also targeted through technology.
T, I'm going to stop hogging all these questions, but is there something that people, you know, middle school, whatever age this is most prevalent at, and I guess you all can speak to that too, but that can do to not make themselves targets? It's really interesting to hear you say that the same people that would be targets of traditional bullying, which might be more face-to-face or even physical, would also be the same targets of cyberbullying. What can those people do to you know, not be victims and release themselves from that?
Mm-hmm. In the training we do, what we like to tell students is, when you're bullied through technology, the first thing to do is not respond. Secondly, tell an adult. And if that adult doesn't help you, tell another adult and then another adult and another adult until somebody is willing to help you put a stop to it. Great thing about cyberbullying that's different from traditional bullying is that there's clear evidence. And there's a record of it. So keep that record and don't delete that record, because then you can do something about it. I think one of the things that school folks struggle with traditional bullying is how to prove that the behavior happened when it's done face-to-face and it's just reported to you. So with cyberbullying, that barrier is eliminated and we can really address the issue.
And I'm guessing the sort of first step being actually don't respond is if you engage, it's just going to escalate the whole...
Absolutely.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Because you hear, and again, I'm not a educator, I'm not a school psychologist, you know, I don't work at Child Focus Inc., but you sometimes hear people say, you know, the first thing you do is if you're getting bullied, sometimes you got to like pop them in the nose, and that's what gets them to stop it. When it comes to technology, that clearly is not the advice.
Absolutely. And we wouldn't, even if it were face-to-face, we wouldn't encourage, I know many parents do, we wouldn't encourage you to pop.
Nor was that me encouraging it either, yes. Councilman Sittenfeld says pop them in the nose. Although I do think, Tamaya and I, we love Joe Biden, and I think he's setting a few keynote addresses. Well, sometimes when the bully's coming at you, just bloody him.
Bloody his nose,
Bloody
Joey.
his nose, Joey. But Joe Biden from the mean streets of Scranton, so he can say that. Dr. DeMeo, I know you were going to...
The other thing that I think is very, very important, both for adults, parents, and teachers, is to build up the child's self-esteem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that is one of the greatest protective factors that we can use to help students deal as far as with bullying and cyberbullying, is to be extremely supportive and build up that self-esteem. Yeah,
it's smart. I know we're playing hot mics here in the studio because it's such a slumber party. But
you guys were talking earlier about the cyberbullying and the, you know, the space between the bullier and the person being bullied. But that also with, like, just in general, people have more courage with technology. They'll say things via text or email or Facebook that they know they wouldn't say face-to-face. And I think that's one of the main issues.
We see that politically. It's like, you know, so many sort of folks who like to be anonymous in their criticism. And it's like, look, I'm a big boy. Like, I can take it for like something I've done, but why don't put your name and face on it if you're going to be a grown up about it.
You know, I was watching CNN and they were talking about cyberbullying, and someone says, I think people are just being too sensitive. You know, people have been bullied since the beginning of time. So, I mean, it's to our experts, are we being too sensitive? And at what point does a harmless prank actually turn into cyberbullying?
I mean, how do we know the line?
Well, you know, if we're talking about bullying, I don't think we are being too sensitive. Personally, by definition, there's an intent to harm in bullying. So if there's this intent to harm, you know, we need to do something about it as adults to put a stop to it. We know that there's devastating effects on the individual that's targeted, so no, we're not being too sensitive. We need to continue to address it.
Joe, would you agree with that?
Yeah, and also bullying is continuous. So it's not just one harmless prank or one little thing. It's a continuous being made fun of or posting something about it. And quite honestly, the too sensitive part is their lives on the line. Bully side is a big problem with people committing suicides from what they've read online. So they're taking it personally, and then wanting to end their lives because of what is being said online.
And obviously I think we've all read about stories in the newspaper and nationally where, an otherwise sort of well-adjusted seeming child who was, getting good grades or playing sports, maybe they sent their boyfriend a picture of them, in some stage of nudity or something, and that got forwarded around, or someone said something nasty, and then you see suicides. In these most extreme sort of emergency situations, if someone is friends with someone who they think is, really under a lot of emotional stress because of a cyberbullying incident, if you're a parent, what's the sort of like, how do you spring into action in the case of something that seems like it could be a disaster if not dealt with immediately? Is there sort of an emergency playbook here?
Well, I think one of the things I want to react to about what was being said is that suicide's it doesn't happen because of one event or one experience. Suicide's a really complex action that a lot of factors come into play, and typically there's some level of depression or other mood issue that's involved, as well as maybe history, family factors, and other things. But whether it's a very general comment about suicide or some ideation of suicide that is expressed, whether it's a peer or another adult, we really need to
tell people absolutely immediately.
Tell people absolutely and try to get that individual help, because we know that suicide can be stopped. We know depression's treatable. So, I'd say get some help.
Well, I think you're probably right that maybe sometimes the media makes it seem like this is a result of this one incident, and maybe there were sort of underlying factors there, but just want folks to know what to do, which is let people know, obviously let mental health experts know.
Absolutely.
All right, we're going to take another break, pay some more bills here, continue the conversation when we come back.